Postpartum hair loss versus hair shaft weathering, because there's a difference. Understanding follicle based versus fiber based hair disorders with trichology plus clinical evidence. Hair concerns are often grouped together under hair loss, but medically and structurally, not all hair problems originate from the same place. Two of the most commonly confused conditions are postpartum hair loss, aka telogen effluvium, and hair shaft weathering, fiber damage. One is a follicle disorder, the other is a hair fiber disorder. Understanding this distinction is essential for accurate diagnosis, treatment, direction, and client education in holistic and clinical settings. When we are saying using the word holistic, so many people are using it randomly, right? But when we say the word holistic, we're talking about the whole. So many women that are in Team Natural like to call themselves holistic practitioners, but you are not a holistic practitioner if you do not treat the hair in every form. So you need to know how to treat the hair when it is curly, when it's straight, when it's wet, when it's dry, what are the best times and the worst times to work with each. You need to know hair care holistically, not just focused on one area like your natural hair without having chemicals in it. That's fine if you choose not to have chemicals in it. I did it for years. But there's also a state that you have to know when your hair is not natural or when your hair is not curly. But that's a whole nother conversation, okay? So one is a follicle disorder, again, the other is a hair fiber disorder. And understanding this distinction is essential for accurate diagnosis, treatment, direction, and client education in holistic and clinical settings. Okay. Number one, the hair system, two separate structures. Before comparing disorders, it's important to understand that hair has two functional parts. Number one, the hair's follicle. This is the body's, or the hair's living system. This is located under the scalp, not on top of it, under the scalp. It controls growth cycles, the anagen phase, the canogen phase, and the telogen phase. Write that in the comments, everybody. The comments, telogen phase, right? Because the follicle controls the telogen phase. It regulates shedding and regrowth and is influenced by hormones, stress, nutrition, and postpartum changes. But the hair shaft, this is the non-living fiber. And when we're talking about non-living, I don't mean inactive. There's a difference between something being inactive and something not being living, as in the nerves are dead. You won't feel it when you get a haircut, but the cuticle is active, all right? The cortex is active. The medulla, if you have one, is active, all right? Visible hair strands above the scalp. This is what the hair shaft is. It's made of keratin protein and it cannot repair itself biologically, right? The cells are not regenerating the way that the cells on your scalp are. It's not regenerating like your skin does, right? There is a difference. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense in the comments, all right? And it only responds to external care or breaks down over time. Again, it only responds to external care or breaks down over time. All right. This distinction is the foundation of all hair disorder classifications. So this is something that's really important. You cannot skip over this. And this is something that all of you are skipping over when you make the comment saying that, oh, her hair only fell out or her hair only got damaged because she had a baby. No, it's not the same thing. Everybody's going to take accountability. Postpartum hair loss equals follicle level disorders, medical term. telogen effluvium. Check the link in the description box below because I've made at least 5 videos about telogen effluvium over the years, but at the time the science didn't matter, so nobody was listening. Link in the description box. Go watch them. So what is it? Postpartum hair loss is a reactive shift in the hair's growth cycle triggered by hormonal changes after childbirth, right? When we're talking about the clinical mechanisms, you have to really look at all of these things because everybody just wants to look at it from a surface external level. We've already talked about this. When we're talking about postpartum hair loss, it is an internal issue, not an external issue. When we talk about hair weathering, that is an external issue. Somebody put in the comments external versus internal. Okay. After pregnancy, estrogen levels drop sharply. During pregnancy, estrogen keeps more follicles in the anagen phase of your hair growth cycle. So when you're pregnant, your hair is growing, right? It's in the anagen phase for a long period of time. There are no shifts. If your anagen phase was supposed to end, if you get pregnant, oh baby, it's going to be on. That's how it goes. But once levels fall, postpartum, after you have the baby, there is a synchronized shift, and it occurs where many of the follicles prematurely enter the telogen phase, which is the resting phase. Your hair is not growing, it's not falling out, it's not doing anything, it's just resting. And then after it gets done resting, it sheds. So it like pushes your hair through the hair growth cycle. That's what happens, right? And that is what postpartum hair loss is. The timeline pattern. First, you're triggered by childbirth and hormonal shifts, right? Once you get pregnant, your hormones going crazy, there we go. Then you have a delay, 6 to 12 weeks postpartum. And then you have your peak shedding moment, which is about anywhere between 3 to 5 months postpartum after you have the baby. And then we have our recovery phase, which is about anywhere between 6 months to a year after you have the baby. That's typical, but most of the time when my clients stick to the regimen, we're able to get them back on track in this time frame through postpartum hair loss. So I'm very familiar with postpartum hair loss because I work with it for a living. So what is happening at a follicle level? Follicles are not damaged. Growth cycles are temporarily synchronized. Temporarily, we can get it out. Hair is released prematurely. It wasn't supposed to happen yet, but you just created life. And a new anagen growth cycle replaces those shedded hairs. So as soon as it falls out, as long as you're doing everything right and you're not greasing and buttering and oiling your scalp, you'll be fine. It resets. So what are the clinical signs of you having postpartum hair loss, postpartum shedding? Diffuse shedding across the scalp, increased hair in the brush or in the shower, white bubs, aka club hair at the root, no scalp inflammation or scarring, right? So you won't be having itching and burning because it's not an external thing, it's an internal thing. And you'll see visible thinning rather than patchy hair loss. I need y'all to pay attention to that. Rather than patchy hair loss, I mean big, huge circles, you will notice some patchy circles, but you'll also notice widened parts that look way wider than normal. All right. So when we're talking about the research and the insight, postpartum telogen effluvium can also unmask underlying conditions such as androgenetic alopecia or traction alopecia during the shedding phase. So if you are somebody who's been team natural baby and then you go and have a baby, it's going to reveal everything that you've done. Everything that you've done wrong is going to trigger everything in the body. Right? But is all team natural hair loss that happens after you had a baby because of the baby? No. It is not. And the parts that come from the baby are just unmasked. The baby was the straw that broke the camel's back, but you've been doing all of the things that damage the hair anyway. Number 3, hair shaft weathering. This is something on a fiber level. Now we're talking about a fiber. Before we were talking about the root. Now we're talking about the human hair shaft equals fiber level damage. Definition: the hair shaft weathering is structural. It is structural. It has nothing to do with the root of your hair and bald spots. It doesn't. This is what I need you to understand. This is when the actual hair shaft just completely degenerates. And this is the fiber above the scalp. So unlike follicle disorders, this does not involve the hair growth cycle in any way, shape, or form. It is mechanical and chemical breakdown of an already formed hair. So this is hair that is already formed. When we're talking about your hormones and what's happening to your body when you're having a baby, it messes with the hair growth system for new hairs that are coming in, not the hairs that are already on your head. It doesn't work like that. So what causes weathering? Heat styling from flat irons and blow dryers. And the thing that I need y'all to understand, in every category, this is when it's done wrong. This is why Team Natural was so detrimental to Black women, because it made y'all believe that because you're a Black woman, you're automatically on the same level of education and knowledge as other Black women who spend the time and thousands of dollars to actually learn the science of the human body. It is not the same thing. So when we're talking about the causes, is when you're doing it wrong because you're not properly educated on how to do it the right way. There are so many professional cosmetologists that straighten their clients' hair every 2 to 3 weeks, and their clients come back and their curls are even stronger than they were before they started coming. So understand that. Everybody that comes in the comments, oh, flat irons are bad, blow dryers are bad. No, they're not. And y'all could say that to me before. It's not even up for debate or conversation anymore. You know why? Because all of the women that told you to do it, now we can see where their hair is. And all of the women who've been going to cosmetologists, or all of the cosmetologists that are online, their clients' hair is still thriving. The proof is in the pudding. It's not even up for conversation anymore. Again, what caused weathering? Heat styling or flat irons and blow dryers used improperly, chemical processing, bleach, dye, and relaxers done the wrong way, managed the wrong way, UV exposure, friction, cotton pillowcases, rough brushing, not brushing or combing, doing it wrong, too rough, or at the wrong time, like when it's wet. And lastly, tight styling. So what is happening structurally? The cuticle, which is the outer layer, it lifts and it erodes, it breaks down, it deteriorates, just like the walls, your walls. If you spray water on your walls every day, if you spray water on your wall, the same place in your room every single day, and then just walk out and then do it like 2 to 3 times a day, by the end of the month, the spot that you keep spraying is going to be eroded. It's going to start chipping. Layers are going to start falling off. The same exact thing happens with the hair shaft when you are constantly wetting it over and over again, or having practices that don't line up with the real science of the hair, as the Team Natural community has taught y'all. And if you tired of me saying it, I don't care, because guess what? I was tired of fighting against it for over a decade. So welcome to Jumanji. Next up, the cortex. It becomes exposed and weak because the cuticle is the outer layer that protects the cortex. The cortex is what holds the bonds. The cortex is what holds the melanin that controls the color of your hair. So if the cuticle is broken down or blocked or clogged, you're hurting the hair shaft, not helping it. Next up, protein bonds break down, right? Because your hair is made of proteins, and hair loses its elasticity and strength. It becomes weaker and weaker. That's why most women in the team natural community don't use combs and brushes, because you're like, every time I comb and brush my hair, it breaks. If your hair breaks when you comb and brush it, it's weak. It is in the process of weathering. It's weathering away, because your hair is supposed to be strong. There are some women who can tie knots with their hair. If your hair can't be combed, there's something wrong. So what are some clinical signs? Split ends. This is the clinical name for split ends. I'll leave a link in the description box below, because I've went over this hair shaft disorder, trichoptilosis, multiple times. We went deep into it. But again, everybody thought I was making things up for years. So nobody wanted to hear what I had to say. And you guys just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper down into this hole. And now you're stuck at the bottom. And the people who got you there, they are completely done making the content in any way, shape, or form. And now they're going to hairstylists and cosmetologists. So I think it may be time for you to start listening to the hairstylist and the cosmetologist. Yeah. Okay. So when we're talking about, again, split ends, we also will see mid shaft breakage. So breakage that happens like you are noticing your hair is snapping halfway down the strand. Yeah. Instead of just at the end, you'll see a rough or a brittle texture, frizz and dullness, and no white bulb, because the hair is breaking, not shedding from the root. There's a really big difference between postpartum hair loss. So when you look at videos of the people that we're coming across, are you seeing what we talked about in postpartum hair loss, or are you seeing more split ends, mid shaft breakage, uneven hair lengths, rough, brittle texture, frizz, and dullness, and no white bulbs, because the hair is breaking, not shedding from the root? So the key clinical difference: follicle versus shaft feature. Postpartum hair loss, telogen effluvium, hair weathering. These are the things that you need to understand. And head over to my website, because this is just a list breaking it down so you know the difference for your own notes. So why these conditions often coexist in real world cases, right? Especially postpartum, both disorders frequently overlap. A postpartum client may experience follicle shedding, telogen effluvium, decreased density, right? Or a hair shaft disorder, weakening the weathering, fragile strands from stress, nutritional depletion, heat styling, or postpartum fatigue. This creates a combined presentation, and things that you say things like, my hair is falling out and breaking and I don't know why. But again, if you've had practices like air drying your hair, putting all of these different things in your hair, putting all of these different layers. So there's so many people like, oh my God, are you really going to say it all could happen from avocados? Yes, because avocados are not supposed to go in your hair. And when you have a cuticle that doesn't want pressure and weight on it, because if it does, it can break. If you have a cuticle that is blocked and can't get oxygen, everybody's like, hydration and moisture. Well, the only way you can get hydration is from the water that you drink or from the environment. But if you have something like avocados and coconut oil with all of this stuff on your hair shaft on a regular basis, and you're barely using really good clarifying shampoos, then none of these things are ever going to happen. So the cuticle just gets weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. So if you combine that with what's happening hormonally with telogen effluvium, aka postpartum hair loss, then you are just going to be in a whirlwind. But this is not coming from a baby. It's not. Your fragile strands, yeah, you can have a little bit of stress, but you've been doing the stressing with all of your practices from all of the different things that you're doing instead of just picking up a blow dryer or instead of doing a roller set. Team Natural, there's one woman in particular who keeps making these comments like, oh, are you saying we're never supposed to wear our hair curly? If you are into the holistic practice of hair, you master your hair when it's curly and when it's straight, not just when it's curly. Okay. If you are a woman who doesn't want to wear her hair straight, then don't do that. I'm sorry, am I lost or something? But our mothers and our grandmothers did roller sets, perm rod sets, flexi rod sets, all of the things. Why are y'all stuck on wetting y'all hair and then constantly spraying it with products over and over again? Your grandma didn't do that. Your grandma shampooed her hair, conditioned it, put leave-in conditioner, wrapped it with foam, and then she left it alone. She put the rollers back in her hair before she went to bed. And when she got up in the morning, she took the rollers out and combed her hair and repeated the same thing. And she washed her hair in a week or 2 weeks. That's how it went. But y'all do the exact opposite. You don't set your hair, you don't allow it to dry, you air dry it, or you do it under a diffuser so your hair has no memory, no pattern. You can't comb through it, you can't run your fingers through it. And every time you run your fingers through it, it breaks. So you have lobs and globs of hair in your comb. No, it's not the product's fault. It's not hairstylist's fault. It's Team Natural's fault and the people who've been following it because it's been wrong the whole time. Number 5, why these conditions often coexist. These are the things that you need to pay attention to. Hopefully y'all have screenshot. Number 5, trichology insight. What studies show? Telogen effluvium research findings. Up to 30% of follicles can shift into telogen during reactive shedding stages, right? Postpartum telogen effluvium often resolves naturally as follicles re-enter the growth phase. Is easy. Telogen effluvium may reveal underlying androgenetic or traction-related hair loss patterns previously hidden. Okay, so the clinical dermatology observation studies show postpartum shedding is rarely isolated, right? They often present with overlapping conditions, female pattern hair loss, traction, alopecia, and hair shaft fragility disorders, right? So I want to ask you a question. If you look at all of the Team Natural practices, how many of these practices really, really help you guys to have strong and healthy hair? Or do you think that the patterns and the routines that you guys have been following have actually been aiding you in the opposite reaction? I think we know what I think. All right. So when we are talking about this, right? Diagnostic identification, simple clinical approach. This is basically a quick little preview to what my clients get sometimes, obviously not everything. So the first thing that I'm going to do is look at the root, right? The white bulb, follicle shedding, telogen effluvium, no bulb, broken strand, hair shaft damage. That's the difference, right? Look at the patterns. Do we have diffuse hair loss, the follicle issue, or do we have uneven ends and mid shaft breakage? That's a fiber issue. That's not a hair follicle issue. Number 3, look at the scalp, normal scalp, telogen effluvium likely, right? But if the scalp is dry, rough, and it's hair only, most likely that's weathering. So the dry scalp, the dandruff, the itching, the inflammation, baby, that's Team Natural. That has nothing to do with y'all having babies. So the holistic interpretation, this is herbs plus the wellness perspective, because from a holistic standpoint, these represent 2 different support pathways completely. Right? So in one instance, I'm going to be giving my clients direction on follicle support. We'll have follicle support focus. So we'll be focused on hormonal balance recovery, iron, protein, and micronutrient restoration. We're going to be focused on stress reduction for the cortisol regulation and postpartum systematic rebuilding. These are the things that I'm focusing on my patients that suffer from postpartum hair loss. All right. And then when we're talking about for hair shaft support, right? My clients that suffer from different hair shaft disorders, we're going to a completely different thing. We're focused on the moisture and lipid barrier restoration, not from hair products, but from her natural sebum, from the internal, the things that can come from the internal that help the external, but the focus is on the external and not blocking it and covering it with hair products. Next will be protein strengthening. So this will be the keratin integrity. Why is your hair shaft weak? The hair shaft is made of keratin. I'm not talking about keratin treatments. There is a difference. We're treating the hair that is made of keratin, not giving keratin treatments. Next, go over the different protective styling habits, because the protective styles are the things that break the hair shaft down the fastest. And then reducing heat and chemical exposure, right? When we're talking about the exposure, your exposure is limited, controlled, and managed when you go to a professional. If you're not going to a professional, it's not managed or controlled, okay? So why is this distinction important? Why does this distinction matter, especially in wellness practices? Misidentifying these conditions leads to incorrect product recommendations, unrealistic expectations, delayed recovery understanding, and client frustration. Nothing is working, right? Everybody's so mad. People feel like there's nothing going right, or the person is incompetent. The person isn't incompetent. You're treating the wrong thing. And correct identification allows practitioners to separate internal versus external causes and build targeted protocols. And it also allows me to improve client trust and retention. This increases, right? It really, really increases conversations and conversions in wellness programs. So postpartum hair loss and hair weathering are not variations of the same condition. They are fundamentally different biological problems. One originates for the follicle, right? It originates in the follicle cycle, and the other originates in the hair fiber structure. But when both are present, treatment must address internal recovery and external repair simultaneously. So when we're talking about certain things like this is the state where things get confusing, right? And I want you to read this because this is so many people's reality. She said, it's so crazy because in 2024, I was going through my little save videos and I came across hers. I remember that I hadn't seen any of my old YouTubers who used to do the team natural stuff back in the day. And I said, I wonder if they're suffering from the mechanical damage, like Cian said, what happened. I promise you, I went to like 6 of their channels, and the one that I deleted, I started following your routine, right? She deleted them after she started following my routines. They said the total opposite of everything that you were saying. And so I became nervous to follow your instructions because they have been talking about no heat this and no heat that. They were talking about you too in the videos. And sis, I will find myself defending you in a couple of videos when people were talking about how you didn't know what you were talking about and discouraging people from watching your videos. So let me pause that real quick. I want to just read this part again. Hold on. Hold on. We're going to read this again because people, y'all listen, y'all can say whatever y'all want to say about me, but especially now that all of the shit has hit the fan, I think we all know from certain cases of people being sued and all of the things that it's one thing to have commentary, right? It's one thing to have commentary, but it's another thing for you to blatantly go out there and tell people not to support another business with information that is not factual, right? So to sit on a channel and make a video and say, oh, don't listen to her because she hasn't been properly trained and she is not going to give you good results and your hair is going to be bald and all of your hair is going to fall out, when I am a person who has been clinically trained, when I do have proof that all of the things that I say are true, when I do have proof that my clients that stop doing the things that you're telling them to do, they get results. When I do have proof that the things that you're telling them to do will lead to a certain type of balding, then guess what? You've now went past freedom of speech. You've now went past commentary, and now you're lying on me. Now you're actually degrading my character. Now you are a person who is interfering with my business practices. Now you are a person who is limiting my reach by telling people that I'm fraudulent in some way without any proof.
If there's one thing that you guys asked me to address, it's this.
So I wasn't going to make this video, but it's extremely concerning to me just how many people really allow Sindal this much influence here in the natural hair community. And I don't fault y'all, but it's just really, really concerning because she's anti-natural hair because she couldn't do natural hair even on her best day because all she knows how to do is relax straight hair. And actually, and if you follow her for quite some time, you know that she was a huge advocate for relaxers and relaxed hair, and we know the dangers and the risks associated with that. I've done a video years ago highlighting her misinformation of basic cosmetology theory and concepts, and how her cosmetology instructor completely failed her. You can watch that video here, linked in the info bar below. But please stop giving this woman so much clout and so much influence here on this platform. It's just no. Just no. And this, hey, so you guys know I haven't really been very active here on the platform lately, and despite that, there's been a certain hair creator that has been putting out video after video after video talking about me. At least 3 videos where I'm either featured or referenced to in the past 6 months over a beef that was like literally over 6 years ago that's been squashed. And this person isn't even woman enough to call me out by name or really say what it is that they trying to get off their chest. You really holding on to this grudge 6 years ago? Sis, that was before COVID. I need you to move. I need you to get help and move on. Seriously. For you to be harboring this much hate is crazy.
The first answer is never. We're just getting started. But I want to first start by saying, as a woman, I have never and will never have beef with a man. But let's just go ahead and start from day one. These videos started popping up on my news feed, or people started making me aware that there was someone making a video about me, like that these videos were popping up.
So when I come back and I have all of the screenshots and I have all of the people who went out and directly made the content, not the people who just wanted to react. You can react to whatever you want. But when you make comments like this, and you blatantly say things like, oh, she was not trained properly, she doesn't know what she's talking about. If you listen to her, all of your hair is going to fall out and you don't have the proof, you can't prove it, then we're going to court. Or maybe we won't go to court. But then you have a problem Then we have an issue. And this is the issue that we are now standing in 2026. Because for the last decade, I've been called a liar. I've been called fraudulent. I've had people say negative things on my business. I've had people tell legions of people, thousands upon thousands of people, not to support me and not to support my business, making claims that are fraudulent and not true. I am 1,000% going to protect myself. 1,000%. So let's get back to it. She said they were talking about you too. And sis, hold on, let me go back because I want to. That as she was in the comments of videos of YouTubers that disagree with me, because all of them did for decades, y'all have all been saying the complete opposite of what I've been saying. And now in 2026, y'all think I'm going to stand silently and sit silently and let y'all now piggyback on everything that I said over this last decade, while y'all were calling me liars and degrading my business and my character. Now you think I'm gonna sit silently and let y'all switch? Absolutely not. Let's finish. She said, they were talking about you too. And sis, I found myself defending you in a couple of videos when people were talking about how you didn't know what you were talking about and discouraging people from watching your videos. I just politely said what I'm posting now and I let it alone. I got called stupid, and some women even joke that I'll be balding soon because of the heat damage that I would get listening to you. Baby, I respectfully told her that I didn't receive any of what she was trying to curse me with, blessed her, and kept it moving. People are weird in that way. Anyway, girl, keep shining and helping us that want to get out of that in all of the ways. I love you. And I just added something to that. I didn't finish reading it. I started scrolling. So I just want to show y'all something really quick. So this isn't to say anything bad about her or anything like that. But these are the things, like, go watch the video for yourself, right? But these are the things that I've been trying to keep y'all away from, right? And so I'm a hater, I'm a liar, right? And all of the things that I've ever said were wrong. But look at how this breakage looks. Look at how her damage looks. Look at that line of demarcation. Look at that cone-shaped breakage. Look at the cone-shaped breakage. This is in 2026. Okay, this is in 2026, June, the end of June, 2026. This is the cone shaped breakage. This is one of y'all favorite YouTubers. This is one of the people that y'all all listen to. Y'all all followed her stuff. And look at where her hair ended up. For over a decade, I've been telling y'all, every time I say something, people are like, oh, well, her hair is long and it's pretty and it's curly and it's healthy. And I'm like, y'all don't, our hair looks different from curly versus straight.
Now, here on this picture from a YouTuber, you can see a mixture of both the very first scalp condition and a hair shaft disorder happening at the same time. But what I really want you to pay attention to is how the client that is sitting in my chair, that's me cutting hair, the client that was sitting in my chair is a person that followed a whole lot of the team natural practices, all of the twist outs, all of the wash and goes, all of the Bantu knots, all of the, do it yourself mixes, all of the things, the same exact things. And it shows the same exact type of breakage. And this client of mine in particular, her hair was beginning to split all the way up the hair shaft. But these are two completely different women. One is a YouTuber and one is the person who was following the YouTuber. And the breakage is exactly the same. So for everybody in the comments of my last video that was calling me a hater and saying that, oh, you're just a hater, please explain to me in this conversation where there's any room or reason for me to be a hater. If you see this woman's hair, right, before her hair is blown out and straightened, right, before her hair is blown out and straightened, It is so thick and bodyful. And this is where Team Natural has been confused. And this is where most Black women are confused. You are under the impression that because your hair looks really, really bodyful and it looks really, really thick and the curls look juicy, that your hair is automatically curly, and that's not how it goes. Curly hair swells when it is wet, and straight hair swells when it is dry. And you're only supposed to cut hair when it is stretched. That's why you cut straight hair when it's wet, because it is stretched when it is wet. The weight stretches naturally straight hair or naturally wavy hair versus naturally curly hair. We only cut naturally curly hair when it is stretched, and naturally curly hair is stretched to the max when it is straightened. So that is why professional cosmetologists only cut hair when it is stretched. Unless they are a person who simply doesn't feel like blow drying your hair and flat ironing it. They're like, oh my God, I do not have time for that. So they'll just go ahead and cut it while it's blown out, which a lot of times that's not really a good decision either, but I won't get on other professionals and their techniques. But I want you to look at this woman, look at her hair, look at the density of her hair, look at the way that her curls look, right? Before it was cut, before it was trimmed. And now this is how her hair looks after we've removed that. But regardless of what anybody wants to say, if people want to use the hater word, that's the word that most people love to go to, it doesn't change the fact that women around the world have been following the same group of women, and all of the women, including the women that everybody's been following, have the same triangle shaped breakage. And I have been talking about this for years. The video that you're looking at right now is a video I made years ago. So my love, if I'm being a hater, can you please explain to me why all of these women have the same issue? And this woman that you're looking at right now, she did not have a baby. She did not recently give birth. No, this is all mechanical damage. So when I'm making these videos and there's somebody that you see that's been online and they're like, oh, they had a baby. No, there is a difference between mechanical damage on the hair shaft and damage from something like postpartum hair loss, aka telogen effluvium. Make sure you leave me some comments below to let me know that you understand what I'm saying and where I'm coming from. I also need you guys to understand that whenever I'm making videos like this, I'm never trying to be combative or starting a fight. No, my goal has always been to keep women from going through what she's going through, what my client that was sitting in my chair is going through, what the YouTuber is going through, all of that hair that she had to cut. I know she didn't want to cut that much of her hair. I know she didn't. These are the things that you have to think about. But once you get all of the broken ends off, it no longer has the ability to split all the way up the hair shaft. Even the client that's in my chair now, I got the majority of the damage off. She did have to come back, and of course, additional times for me to keep giving her haircuts to take the damage off through the middle, because if you could look in the back, the triangle actually wanted to go up higher, but we were able to get her hair back to a healthy starting point. So again, for the 50th time, if you come across my channel and you're like, oh my God, why is she so passionate? She's a hater. Well, nobody's hating on nothing, baby. My life is great. Okay. But as the woman who women were constantly coming to see, I was trying to get you guys to stop following these YouTubers because their hair is just as damaged as yours, but you can't see it because they always wear their hair curly, and your hair lies from curly to straight. This isn't picking on anybody. It is getting the balance back in the hair industry that we lost. I really hope this makes sense to everybody, and I really hope that this encourages you to start making wiser decisions about about the people that you listen to, about the people that you follow, the products that you just run and buy. And I encourage you to really get to know yourself and your own hair, because as we can see in 2026, all of these YouTube hacks, they did not work. I'll see you later.